My name is Richie Bias. I'm a 14-year vet of the NYPD. Me and Pedro met each other in the 40th precinct, and we started our struggle against the police department several years ago.
Good evening, and thank you for spending Sunday night with me. So, I'm Manuel Gomez. I'm a private investigator. I'm 18th Airborne Counterintelligence Officer from Fort Bragg. Just retired about a year and a half ago. Also, was a former police officer for 14 years. And also, I worked as Department of State Security for the U.S. Ambassador Cunningham in Afghanistan for a company used to be known as Blackwater, but now it's known as Academy. All right. Tonight I wanted to say thank you, and I look forward to starting this.
This is the first time that I've met these gentlemen. Can we just give them another round of applause? I'm and yeah, so my name is Callie Gail Heilman. I grew up in Hartford and moved to Bridgeport in 2013 and started Bridgeport Generation Now with a group of about 10 people really dedicated to good governance, democracy, democratic empowerment, justice and equity here in Bridgeport. So really grateful to be here.
All right, so first question I want to throw out, as many of the individuals that are seeing this film for the first time tonight, it has changed their perspective, it has changed their life on getting an inside glimpse of another, neighboring police department. So with that being said, how has this film changed life for you all as you know it? This question's open to anybody.
Well, this film, what we intended was to make change and to bring this out so that everyone can see it. And we thought that people up top would see this and make some changes. Unfortunately, changes have been slow. There have been certain things that happen, but it has increased our likelihood of being fired. It's just what it is. We're targets, and we're not going to stop what we're doing. We're going to continue. The group that we're making or gathering is getting bigger and bigger. So we're getting more and more support, but it's still very dangerous. But we're going to continue to fight.
Well, how this film changed us, or changed me. In the beginning, it's just reforming our police department. But as we continued fighting, we noticed that it's a criminal justice reform. Not only with the police department, but also the district attorney, the correction, so forth and so on. All these things are interconnected with one another. So this basically made our fight even bigger and broader than we originally expected it to be.
It didn't change me. What it did do was expose what I'm doing. As a private investigator, I've solved 98 cases, I freed 98 people in the past 3 years, and I have not lost one case. The corruption that I found for the past 5 years within the police department, the prosecutor's office, which I call the untouchables, the Department of Corrections, and the fire department has been unconscionable. And so what it's inspired me to do was write a new proposal for a new agency called the Department of Civil Justice. Now, I'm going to be showing my age here, but a guy named Frank Serpico collaborated on it with me, okay? And I'm going to tell you something that I'm so excited, and I told my brothers and other mothers here, tomorrow, that proposal you saw me showing in the movie, well, now it's an official state bill, and tomorrow I'm going to be signing off on it and making any corrections to it. That bill will bring oversight over the prosecutor's office, oversight over the police departments, oversight over the Department of Corrections and the fire department. You cannot have departments correct themselves, punish themselves, monitor themselves, and then supervise themselves. If the president can have oversight, how can our departments not? And the fact that you have the police chief and prosecutors who have immunity from committing corruption, how is that possible? But it is. And guess what? I'm coming to Bridgeport, Connecticut with that bill so we can put and have it done here as well.
So Kelly, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on some of the work that has been being done by Bridgeport Generation Now, ACL2, ACLU, Make the Road, and some of our other supporting partners that have been trying to clear the way for transparency and access as Bridgeport citizens in the police department.
Yeah, so Bridgeport Generation Now got involved in this work after Jason Negron was killed in May of 2017, 15-year-old unarmed child of Bridgeport. But we were following the lead of other folks already in this fight, so in no means were we leading on that. And Jason's family has been at the forefront of this work here in Bridgeport, as well as folks, People Against Police Brutality, doing the work up in New Haven. Where we saw our place was we have a police commission. It's the only civilian oversight body of our police department. There are 7 members and they meet monthly. And so we looked at how can this member-based all-volunteer organization that's made up of concerned citizens, where can we start to make a difference? So we started going to those police commission meetings, and we've been going every month since November of 2017. So this will be a year of going to those meetings. And just by showing up, which is actually one of our principles, we show up for each other, we show up for the work. We have collected a huge amount of research and have we led an organizing effort to bring transparency to our most recent police chief search because the city was engaged in a national search for a 5-year contract for a new chief of police, and it was totally in the dark. Everything was being done without any public input, without any transparency. So we led that fight here locally, and yeah, just really committed, dedicated. Our people who want to be involved in this, the numbers also continue to grow as I think people see that this is about systemic change. It's not just about Bridgeport, because it's about New Haven, it's about Hartford. The ACLU of Connecticut is involved in that criminal justice reform, clean slate legislation. There's a lot of returning, legislation for returning citizens. It's all part of the same work.
You know what the problem is here is that you're doing great work, but people don't have a mechanism to report that corruption. All right, and that's the problem. This is why once this bill makes the clarifications tomorrow, I'm going to come up here. And I met a nice gentleman tonight, which was one of the people I wanted to meet, because I was told that there were activists in the audience. I was told that there were city council members in the audience, and I met a nice one here, Mr. Kyle over there with a great shirt. I'm going to bring this bill so that we can have a mechanism where people can report this type of corruption. I was doing research and investigating Bridgeport for the past 2 days, and I find it appalling that your police chief doesn't even have a college degree. All right, you have police officers who've done some heroic work in this Bridgeport Police Department, and who are very admirable men who are good candidates for this. The fact that the mayor's driver became your police chief, I got a problem with that. And it's not only that, but I was also looking into some other things that you have a problem with. Do you know that if you file a complaint against the police department, you have to do it in front of the supervisor on the top? The intimidation factor there is astonishing. So again, these are things that we're addressing, and it's not just a New York problem. It's a Connecticut, Jersey, 38 states copy the police patrol guide procedures of the NYPD because it's the largest police force in the world. And if you don't believe me, go online and you can Google the NYPD patrol guide and you can Google the Bridgeport patrol guide, and you will see they almost mirror each other. And when you mirror the procedures, you mirror the problems. This is why you have the same problems here, and that we're addressing, and we need to bring address. Currently, right now, supporting these issues with me is the NAACP, the New York ACLU. I have the 100 Blacks in Full Law Enforcement, the Latino Officers Association, National Association. Okay, and not only that, but recently I just got a Barry Scheck from the Innocent Project, okay, to get on board with me as well. And again, we want to bring this legislative proposal to all of you so that you guys can have a mechanism and then the good work that she's doing and that the rest of you are doing can be heard. Because you want to know something? It's been 50 years since the movie Serpico, and 50 years of commissions, talking and findings, and what have we gotten completed? Okay?
The illusion of something actually happening.
That's right.
What he said that he wants to create a mechanism where you can make a complaint. But as a police officer, I cannot make a complaint against the police. If I see my captain, my lieutenant, my sergeant committing a crime, I can't. If I report it, the mechanism I report it to Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs brings it right back to the captain who I saw committing a crime, which basically says it wasn't a crime, they come right back to me, and now I get punished. So there is no place for a police officer to report corruption and something is done. So hopefully, if we get oversight, like what he was saying, then we'll have some change. Because if I see things and people like me see things, then I can report it without fear of retaliation. And if you see something, likewise. Because retaliation from police, when we control the rules, when we control what to rescue, and we control the story, and there's no limit. So we're trying to create a panel or an agency that supervises or oversights us. And then we can get some real change. But until then, they control everything. The punishment, the courtrooms, every aspect of it. Even when you win, they just change the rules and say, no, look at the rule. It's you lost, and there is no change. But yeah, this is what we're waiting for.
I just want to piggyback on what Manny said about mirroring. With the NYPD, with the creation of CompStat, every major police department has copied that. Not only in the United States, but around the world. Toronto has the same issues that we've seen in Bridgeport and New York City. Melbourne, Australia has the same issue because they copied the CompStat model. So basically, the CompStat model for the NYPD is something they sell and they make money off it. And not only that, it's creating a legacy for, what's this guy's name? Bill Bratton, the creator of CompStat. That's a legacy that he has made. So he's going to do his best, and everybody that's a part of it is going to do their best to keep the CompStat model the way it is. Because if we destroy it, we destroy his legacy, we destroy his work. So they're fighting tooth and nail to prevent stuff like the Department of Civilian Justice from coming through. Stop the NYPD from coming forth with more evidence and information. They don't want it because they know we're going to shadow the system that's in place.
I was just going to say that, what we have just, one of the things that we discovered in our research is that the Bridgeport Police Department has been out of compliance with our state racial profiling laws, and has always been out of compliance. And there is no mechanism for accountability there. So the state law says that the Office of Public Management, so OPM at the state level, can threaten to take away state funds if you're out of compliance, but that doesn't mean that they will. The state law says nothing about you will lose money or you will be fined or you will. It's just a carrot stick type thing, and it means that year after year, the citizens of Bridgeport are routinely subjected to the same type of policing that we see in this movie, and there is no mechanism. There's, like you said, there is a appearance. There's there's a commission, there was a law, you know, but there is no mechanism.
Well, you have my word that you can have a mechanism now, all right? Because I'm going to bring it up now. You know, because of this film, and it's been a tremendous platform for me, I've been called to more than 20 states to enact this proposal, okay? And then I just came back from London, it was about 3 weeks ago, and they want to do it over there, all right? So, I mean, she just said every reason why you need to have an oversight agency. And here's the funny thing. Do you know that you have abandoned courthouses in Bridgeport? All right, that are built like a fortress and are sitting there collecting dust. So this is why I'm proposing we install this new agency, because it will have the mechanism for the courts. See, this new agency will be run by fair and impartial investigators. So in the sense that it's going to be investigators who are not prior NYPD or prior Bridgeport police or prior anything police. We're going to take our top students from your top colleges and train them to become investigators. We're going to have a panel where the city council, like that man over there, Kyle, where the city council can turn around and vote who is going to be made a judge to be a judge within the Department of Civil Justice. We'll take away the administrative hearings away from Bridgeport, where you have the police department conducting hearings on corrupt cops, and then the guys are getting off and getting 3/4 pay. Okay? Now, that's insane. All right? You have too much corruption here going on. And again, in this movie, you see the scene with Pedro Hernandez? That scene in there, all right, it's not just about the corruption of him being falsely arrested, but it was the prosecutor, the Bronx DA's office, falsified 6 criminal cases against this kid. They used one kid, William Stevens, to arrest 50 children on 50 cases. And when I took on this case, I said, wait a minute, is this kid Jesus? He's everywhere. All right? And you know what? I got the crickets when I said that. Okay? But I freed this kid out of 6 of his cases. And out of all these cases I've been doing, I've been seeing the same corruption in Jersey, in Michigan, in North Carolina, in South Carolina, in Detroit, in Maryland, and all throughout New York State. And then I start reading about Bridgeport. And I see the same exact thing here. Okay? Again, we gotta have this agency where this, I'm gonna give you at the end of this, if you can all come up to us, we're gonna give you our numbers. I'm gonna give you my website, and then click on there and say legislation, and you'll be able to print a PDF of the actual template for this new agency. Because we cannot permit for cops like this to suffer. For cops like this for not being able to have ability to report corruption. Serpico said that in the 70s. What have we done? But you see, this new agency is going to give this woman and you the ability to report corruption and get justice without fear of retaliation as well. So it gives an equal mechanism for everyone to report the corruption and to have judges conduct administrative hearings that are impartial and fair, and also have subpoena powers. The fact that she's telling me that they're going to take away state funds and nothing happens to the police chief for racial profiling is disgusting. Okay? This is not the 60s. This is not the 20s. Okay? Unfortunately, it's still operating that way. And we need to change this. Okay? So I hope you'll work with us, because we need to make this systemic change, because you are all besieged by the same injustices which you saw in this film. You just don't realize it yet. Okay?
So with that being said, and what may not necessarily be reflected in the film is systems of support, specifically community support. So what has been you all's experience as far as getting support for the initiatives that you all are enacting, or support amongst the officers in these communities for not participating in these particular types of policing work in New York City?
Well, I'll tackle it. Well, you can see in the film we had a little pushback with certain people, because at the end of the day, me and Pedro, we are cops. But I think 3 years later that we're still in this fight, now we see more people willing to work with us. We have I had a gentleman named Alejo Rodriguez, he did probably 5 or 10 years upstate New York. And he wants us to basically present the film in his reentry program to see former inmates see how the criminal justice work. So that says a lot, us being in the forefront and continue fighting, that the people see that we're for real, that we're not in it for the money, that we actually here to make systemic change.
Yeah, support, in different areas. When you talk about, we wrote to our borough presidents, they didn't get back to us. We wrote to senators, we wrote to, you name it. We reached out to a lot of people. Not many came out because they're afraid. The police department is a mafia. They're very powerful. They control all parts of law and politics. And they're very powerful. So they're afraid to come out too. These are politicians saying, well, this topic is too controversial. And they're afraid to come out. So sometimes we get some support. I'm happy to hear that a senator came out and supported his idea on the agency. We have captains, lieutenants, chiefs, people that come out and want to support us, but they can't come out publicly because they're going to be retaliate themselves. They're just a piece, a cog inside a machine. And what they do is when that cog acts up, they just pull it out and put somebody else that's going to do the work. It's going to shut up, do the work the way it's supposed to be done, target people of color, and as long as people of color are be put in jail and feed the jail system, and then everything's running smooth. The minute you go against it, they push back against you, they fire you, they send you to some psychiatrist and say that you're unfit. So we have a lot of support, but a lot of it is underground and behind closed doors. We need people like you to take this film and put it in your communities and talk to the people that are have power, political power, and keep this, don't let it die down, just keep it going, because the only way that we're going to get something done is simply to hold people accountable. And hopefully the panel or oversight will hold people accountable. And not only will civilians be okay, but think about the rookie that just took a job and is being taught the correct way to police. And to police, people of color and white people evenly. That person is immediately shut down and shut down. So that person will never become a sergeant, lieutenant, captain. Will never rise through the ranks. So, we just got to keep this going. Just don't let it die, and eventually we'll get there.
Well, he said about support. It took me 2 years to find a senator who had cojones and an assemblywoman who had the heart enough to back me, and I finally found them. And thank God, because it was an uphill battle. And I've had a lot of pushback as well, because the police department did something to me that they haven't done in years to somebody. They sent a picture out of me to every police officer and said, stay away from this guy. Now, the last guy they did that to was John Gotti. Now, granted, the suits might be alike. Okay, but I'm not Gotti. I only represent innocent people, and I only approve innocence of people who are innocent. Okay? And they have done everything to try to stop me in doing my job. Except I don't go to the police departments for my evidence. I go to the streets where the evidence is. All right? I do it the old-fashioned way. I use these shoes, not a Google search. Okay? Again, there's the support. Again, we need, when we bring this bill and that city council member over there with heart, Kyle, presents it, we need you to write all your council members and all your senators and assemblymen and say, back this. But we're not going to vote for you. Your vote counts. You need to write them and let them know that you want this oversight. All right? Every person should be held accountable by the law. Anybody that's above the law, to me, that's not American. It goes against the very fabric of our Constitution. How can you pursue life if you can't have justice? How can you have liberty if your justice is in question all the time? Okay? How can you have happiness if there's no mechanism for relief for justice. Okay? Again, this agency we're proposing and what we're doing here is going to strengthen the very fabric and pillar of the Connecticut judicial system. And I hope you guys will support that. I really do.
Yeah, and it's important for folks to also know that Bridgeport is not every town and city in the state of Connecticut has a police commission. And Bridgeport is one. We are one that does have one. It's established in our city charter, and state statutes give the police commission really strong authority, so they can discipline officers, they can fire officers, they can set department policies, they can set department goals. It's important for people to know that those commissioners are appointed by the mayor, and they are appointed and they serve, I think it's like staggered terms, right? But so then this comes into the political, it goes all back to politics, right? So if you have a mayor who is aligned with the police union, who then is appointing commissioners to our only civilian oversight body, who then ostensibly work for the same mayor, then you basically totally cut the arms and legs off of our only mechanism for accountability. And when we look at our current police commission, while there are a few commissioners on there who, their heart is in the right place, there is no call for courage. There's no call for bravery. And they really don't have any backing from political leaders, from city council, from the mayor. So it's up to us, just like in this film, it's up to us to stand, to take that stand, to be the voice for courage, to put ourselves out there and to make those calls, because that's exactly how, movement happens.
Well, you just said a perfect point, and that was one of the things that I was addressing, which is, like I said, you said they have all these powers, but they're not being used because they don't have the backing or the mayor appointed them. And this is why I'm saying we can't have that. We have city council members like that one over there, and the ones that are in here, that they should be the ones appointing who's sitting in that office seat for the next 2 or 4 years, okay? So that now you don't have the good old boys club from the mayor or from the police commissioner, okay? This is how we have some kind of impartiality, okay? And then if we see they're not showing the heart to address the issues, then we have city council members like that, fire them and get someone else who does. Like the fact that this beautiful town of Bridgeport is going through this, okay? Just look at the rest of the state. This is a systemic problem that goes on throughout the whole state. All right, we need to have relief. And I really hope, again, like I said, after this, you'll all meet up with us and we'll give you the cards and you can download these PDFs of this template and read it and see, okay? So you can be part of this because every one of us has the power to make a difference. But this woman said it perfectly. They don't have any backing. We need to back them. We need to give the power to the city council members like Kyle, all right, and the rest of them out here to vote who's going to be in office by the merits of their performance and of their past, okay? Not because I drove the mayor, I'm police chief. No, all right? That's insanity. And this is what's going on to not only the mayor's office, the police office, that's going on in the prosecutor's office over here. You have a budget allocated, I don't know if you know this, a budget allocated for your corruption lawsuits. Did you know that? How can you have budget allocated for lawsuits? Why not? Go ahead.
Yeah, instead of teaching the police officers how to act correctly and police correctly, well, let's just let them act like wild animals and do whatever they want, but yet we'll just pay whoever decides to sue off. And then there's a small budget that says that we won't even challenge a lawsuit as long as it's under a certain amount, $5,000, $10,000. We won't even investigate whether the police officer did anything right or wrong. We'll just pay you off and you're done. And this is a system they use, and it's a huge budget just for lawsuits.
Speaking of officers, and there's a number of officers within the city of Bridgeport specifically that have they have a great rapport with citizens in the city of Bridgeport. So what advice would you give to citizens on how to support their officers, in defending their communities, in informing their communities, and continuing to support the work that they're trying to do to keep their communities safe that are actually out trying to do their jobs?
Well, one way is writing to the commanding officers or the media supervisors. How good is Officer Bob or Officer Pedro or Officer Richie is doing in the community? How they impacting the streets that they patrol? That's one way. Two is let your local council member about these particular officers. I mean, it's a two-way street. You need something to report the bad actions of police officers in the venue to report the good actions of a good police officer. So that's the balance right there. You have to have both avenues there.
Yeah, you need to communicate with each other, basically. You need to know what the law really is, not what's on TV, what's really, your right to search. You gotta attend these meetings, you gotta ask questions, you gotta say, when can I say no to a police officer? And if I say no, does he have a body camera? Can we get access to that? I mean, it's not an easy question, but you need to communicate with them. And then you have to hold them accountable for not sticking by what they say. They have community police officers that will speak jargon to you and just will spin stuff just to make you happy. And they'll tell you that everything's great, but what's really happening behind the scene is that community police officer is hired by the captain, and the captain tells them what to say. So now the police officers do whatever they want, and then they just basically tell you what you want to hear. Nothing ever gets done. It continues over and over and over again. That's why a lot of these cameras are coming into play, and now you've seen what's really happening. You've seen that some officers are acting bad and some civilians are acting bad, and we just want the truth. We want fair policing. If a civilian did something wrong, then yeah, they go to jail. And the cop that does something wrong, he goes to jail. Whatever the case is, we just want fair policing. And without communication, without knowing what the law is and what they can and cannot do to you, it's very difficult. So you have to ask questions. You gotta hold them accountable.
All right, so with that said, we're going to open the floor up for questions from the audience. So please feel free, if there's some questions that you have for the officer here, or for Callie as well, please feel free, just raise your hand and we'll call you out one at a time. All the way in the back.
My name is Robin Olson, and I work for the New York City Transit Authority from 1990 to 2013, and I know Officer Wright. I come in touch with him in the system. So I just want to say that my personal experience working in the subway was a lot of fairness. I work in predominantly black neighborhoods. I work in predominantly white neighborhoods, and in the black neighborhoods, we always had seats. So, they were always taking guys down to
1 second, I just want to give her a quick little answer. The reason there's more policing in black people of color, the neighborhood, is basically they don't have the lawyers, they don't have money to sue, and you have commanding officers that are specifically telling police officers to stop people of color. They give you the age, from 14 to 21. They say male, black, and they tell you exactly where they live. They basically target them. And that's why you see more policing in poor neighborhoods, is because this is coming straight from the top. It's words spoken to rookies that don't understand anything and just simply say, hey, stop black people. And you will get credit for this arrest. That's the bottom line. You arrest white people, you get no credit. You go nowhere. That's simple, direct, and that's why there's a problem. And he's not held accountable, he or she, sorry.
I have two really quick questions. One is, where was the police union?
I always say that myself. The police unions has known about this problem and this corruption all along. I mean, one thing, there's something that I tell you that he just touched briefly on. You saw about the lawsuit. We have tapes that are not shown in this film that show a police captain ordering a cop to stop, like he said, from 14 to 21 blacks. And when the cop said to him, but for what reason? The captain's response was, because I told you so. Okay? And we also have other tapes and recordings of inspectors telling people, if you don't meet these quota system, you're going to be working in Pizza Hut. All right? And we have all these films and recordings of this. So the union has done nothing, and we brought it to their attention. But now I'm going to make them do something.
My other question was, did Pedro Hernandez have no recourse for that? What did he spend, 8 months in jail?
He spent a year in jail, and
And he got nothing?
he lost 35% of his vision. He was maced, beaten, robbed numerous times, and they would not let him wash the mace out of his eyes for 18 hours. And he went in there with 20/20 vision, and now he wears glasses that are thick like Coke bottles. He is suing now, but again, like I said, that mechanism for the prosecutor that falsified the cases. You know, his mother was sexually harassed by this detective that arrested her, all right, 6 times. 6 times. They accused this kid of attempted murder 3 times, and I proved him innocent on every single one of them. I mean, and still, that prosecutor's still working. Somebody explain it to me. I have concrete evidence showing him lying, and he's still working. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
That's why we're making this change.
Yeah, and today in New York Post, a commander, I think Keenan, just threatened physical violence to his supervisor. He's a captain, to the lieutenants and the sergeants, threatened physical violence that if their officers do not meet the quota. And there's actually a tape, an audio tape. It's this just came out. It was notified this morning, and it's still happening. So
The quota system is not called a quota now. It's called performance objective. So they changed the name.
they
And
changed
guess
it
what?
again.
You have the same thing. Your department head, do you know right now how much money is generated off the backs of your youth? I mean, you know, every time somebody gets a court ticket, the court fees and all that other stuff, it's a hundreds of millions of dollars a year are generated off that. And if you don't believe me, go online. Your budget's online. It's public access. I was looking at it.
They changed the name again. Actually, it's called precinct conditions. Basically, whatever the condition is now, that is where you get your quota from. And they just changed the name. That's it. I understand how they believe that we're that dumb that we can't follow words. They just changed the name of it, and it continues.
So I just want to illuminate from our research that how systemic this issue is. So how it's not just individual officers, and it's not just the police department. So 4 officers, unnamed officers, assaulted the 15-year-old son of City Councilwoman Karen Jackson over the summer, and over a complaint over a stolen ball. So they tased him. 4 officers tackled him to the ground and tased him in his legs. And when Councilwoman Jackson came out publicly and spoke out against it, our own city attorney's office sent her a letter basically telling her to be quiet, and which the ACLU of Connecticut described as, quote, gaslighting, intimidating, and a veiled threat. So then, after that happened, that was over the summer and the fall, this points to the police union and how strong of a lobby that is and how much power they hold. Officer Omar Jimenez in 2013 was charged with police brutality in a suit the city was forced to settle for $300,000. He failed a drug department test in 2015, and in 2016 drove drunk and punched someone in the face. Although he was fired in May, an arbitrator ruled that he should have only been suspended for 90 days without pay. So that's the union coming, an arbitrator, that's an arbitration, right? So there's the union coming to say, no, you shouldn't have fired this officer, he should have only been suspended. Even though he has, repeatedly, been engaged in what we would call unethical, immoral, problematic behavior. And then finally, Detective David Garcia was charged with domestic violence in 2014, and in 2016 he was charged with sending dozens of explicitly sexual text messages to a woman whose house he responded to on a call. On August 29th, Acting Chief, now Permanent Chief, AJ Perez, announced that Detective David Garcia had been reinstated, explaining, quote, I decided to have him back at work where he could be supervised. So we see our city attorney's office, we see the police union, and we see leadership within the police department all propping up a system that is actively harming the working people and families of our city.
Next question.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, and all the men and women who are in the video. I really appreciate it, bringing everything to light. I'm feeling really inspired and hyped up for action right now. I am on the city council in Bridgeport, and to the point of court cases, I was telling you, Detective Manning, or Investigator Manning, what do you go by? Detective Manning, how I see miscellaneous matters when I sit for these cases. You can tell, it looks like a racket to me between attorneys, because like you said, there's this kind of this very low threshold where they always negotiate cases to be dismissed for a settlement that the city pays. But the attorney takes their fee, and the person who was dealing with whatever happened to them, whatever traumatic event, is getting peanuts in comparison to what really happened. And it's like a payoff, and that's where the budget you're talking about. It's essentially like, our city attorney's office is one of the fastest ballooning budgets in our city. My question, I'm really willing to champion this, and I appreciate you doing all the legwork and putting the policy together. I'm really excited to read it and talk to you about it more. I already have a reputation for, kind of being outspoken with some of the issues that Callie already mentioned, and so I'm going to have to be very deliberate in the way I do it. So what I'm thinking right now in terms of organizing my thinking for my colleagues is, what are some of the indicators, and this is my question, what are some of the indicators that I should look to, whether it's state data, city data, that will reveal, maybe it's the number of internal affairs cases, that will reveal some of the systemic problems that the oversight committee or the oversight department would solve. Because I have the anecdotal things when I talk to neighbors and the stories that Callie said, those are those anecdotal cases that are very powerful to hear. But I also want to be presenting with, these are the numbers. This is what we're addressing. So
That's a great question, and it's multiple parts, so let me do part one first. To prove that Bridgeport, Connecticut has a quota system, it's very simple. Each one of your precincts submit monthly a certain amount of summonses. And when you get those numbers, which they're supposed to report to the city council, I think it's called your criminal justice committee, if I'm correct, all right? Public safety committee. They do that once a year, am I correct on that?
yeah, in the charter
Yeah.
We have the power to ask them to come whenever we want for that.
Okay, so
Supposedly.
they're supposed to report the numbers, and it will show you the numbers of each precinct of what they're generating, and then you'll see that they're almost identical. And then that shows to you you have a quota system. Okay, that's for your summonses and so forth. That's the first part. The second part, regarding individuals that she just read about that detective, there's a pattern of them in Bridgeport. That's not the only one. You've got a couple, at least 100 of them that are in there. Okay, and what has been done to that? Nothing, because you have that good old boy system protecting them. You know, we have to look at how many cases and violations of your administrative hearings being conducted by the Bridgeport Police Department, who holds their own administrative hearings, okay, of cops like that. Now, when you get those numbers, they have to report it to you, because you're the city council. Public safety, they have to report these numbers if you demand it, okay? And then you'll see that these cops are getting away with it because they know somebody, or have a hook, or best friends with somebody. This guy was sexually sending explicit texts and pictures, and he's still on the job. He was drunk and driving. He's still on the job. He's committing crimes. He's still on the job. Cops are supposed to be, hold on, we have a higher level of integrity than a regular citizen, because we are empowered with your trust to protect you. So we are held to a higher standard. And if we don't adhere to that standard, then we need to remove them. And it's not only them, it's the prosecutor. She just proved again what I was saying before. You have the prosecutor intimidating a city council member. Who does the city council member go to? See what I'm saying? So we need to put that in a public safety hearing, and we need to pull up those numbers. So you can put up the numbers of the arrest quotas, the summonses for each precinct, and you'll see what the monthly put out is, because each precinct has a sheet. Bridgeport has it as well. And it's a monthly sheet of what each cop's performance is. Okay? And you'll see those numbers. You'll see that they're almost identical in all your police precincts. That shows you have the quota right there. Because how can the numbers all be the same? See? And that's the problem in New York, because that's what we all see. Now, again, with the administrative hearings, you can get that. That's actually public record. But they can report to you directly and say how many cops were charged with serious offenses for the year 2018 and 2017, and then what were the punishments imposed on each one of them. And that will also help you in your cause to fight, because these are some of the data that we're using in our fight in New York.
Also, you can always call us, and we'll go through every one of us. We have sergeants and lieutenants that will talk to you and tell you the ins and outs of what's going on. It's very complex, so we actually have to sit there and we need hours to understand what's happening. We have to explain everything. We'll give you all numbers. You call us and ask us some questions. We'll give you suggestions. A lot of us have things written, and we can sit down and just hash it out. We'll help you out, help you work it out, no problem.
Also want to add, those officers that's constantly getting in trouble and they're just getting a slap on the wrist, you have to look at what type of arrests, the number of arrests and number of summonses they're producing. Because I noticed the officers that are called the police officers, when they get in trouble, nothing happens to them because they generate revenue for the city. They're putting black and brown bodies into the prison system. They're basically perpetuating the systemic abuses that's happening. So you have to look into that also. So if you see an officer running amok, and you look at how many arrests and summonses he's producing monthly, yearly, throughout his whole career, and you see that nothing's happening to him, there's another connection you can make.
And the other thing you want to use, and this is the big thing, because in City Hall, in the City Council, it all ends up at the brass tack. How much money is it costing the city? How much money is it costing the City Council? I need you to pull up how much money did the City Council pay out on corruption lawsuits for 2017. Now, when you have that number for 2017, 16, 15, and 14, and you show that number and how it's progressively moving up, all right, then that right there will give you that that motivation to turn over some of your colleagues who might be on the other side of the fence and come over to this side of the fence, okay? To save the money of the people of Bridgeport, because you pay enough high taxes as it is, okay? I mean, I know a lot of you pay to the teeth on your property taxes. So, again, I think that would be another tool to use in your arsenal to stand up for your defense. Is there another question? Yeah.
Wait for the mic, wait for the mic.
First of all, that film was incredible, and I'm glad that you guys are doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
When it comes to that review agency that you're talking about, is that still in the legislative process in New York?
Actually, it's going to be a bill. Well, I'll take it back. It is a bill now. It's the bill draft is being done tomorrow. It's already done. I'm going over there to review it to make sure that they didn't miss anything and that everything that me and Serpico put in is there. So they had to put their part on it, but it's like 95% of what me and Frank wrote. So tomorrow we'll have the draft, we'll sign off on it. The bill should be official in about another 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll be holding a big press conference. And then I'm going to take that bill as soon as I get it, and I'm going to send it to that city council member right there, so that he'll have a template to work with, so he can curtail it for the Bridgeport area as well.
That's great. I guess I'm asking because I'd be curious to see what happens once that's in effect. Unfortunately, I'm skeptical because, I mean, you described, Hernandez was his name?
Pedro Hernandez.
Pedro Hernandez spent 8 months, all this horrible stuff happened to him in
A
prison.
year in jail.
And how could something like that be prevented just because there's a board? Like, these people, if there still will be unfair policing, you mentioned there's 100 detectives here that are like this. So is a review board going to go in and just clear house? How could that happen? And along with that, how do you feel about more drastic reform, like ending cash bail or even removing guns from police, other things kind of more radical reforms like that?
Well, I want to answer the second part first, all right, which is about cash bail. Like I said, I was a former police officer and a crime investigator. There was something that happened to me when I became a crime investigator, and I never thought I would say this. I realized how many innocent people are in jail. I would estimate there's about 20% to possibly 20, I'll say again? Yeah, 20 to 25% in jail, people are there that shouldn't be there, okay? And then there's people that have bail, that you're not gonna believe this, in Connecticut, that have a $1 bail, and don't know they have a $1 bail, and are spending 10 months in jail. And they're not told that, okay? Now, bail reform, yes, we need to be more open with what the guy's rights are. Tell him that he has a $1 bail, so somebody's family can pay the $1, okay? And, but there is also bail needed for people that are serial killers. Because on the flip side of me being a crime investigator, I'm also that guy you don't want to see. I'm the guy who hunts down killers and serial killers. And if you go on my site, you'll see how many I've captured in the past 2 years. I've captured 5 of them, all right? Those guys should have bail and high bails. So, yes, there needs to be bail reform, but we also do need to keep a bail system, okay? So I agree with you on that, all right? But like I said, again, we have to have change. Now, regarding that system you said that you were skeptical, right? You were skeptical on the board. The board will help get rid of those 100 cops, okay? Because these people in here that are being brutalized by them will be able to make that report of corruption to that new agency, and then they will hold a hearing and fire him. And then if he's criminal, we send it to the DA's office to prosecute him criminally. So yes, they will eliminate that. We have to have that mechanism. We have to have a mechanism of oversight. Next question?
I just want to add to the bail reform. Legally, if I'm arrested, I can go to the bank and get a loan for bail, but they won't do it because they just don't want to. They are violating that law. It's easier to get a loan for the bank for $1,000 at 5% interest rate, as opposed to going to a bail bondsman charging you 25, 30%. It's a cash-making business. So they take that money away from poor people, because poor people are the ones that unfortunately getting locked up, and unfortunately most poor people are either black or brown. So it's affecting us directly. So with the cash reform, we do need the bail system, but it has to be reformed. It has to be other alternative than going to the bail bondsman. We have to have the banking system who take our money, give us less than 0.5% interest rate, and yet they lend out money at 10, 15, 30% interest rate, making a killing out of our money. That we should hold them accountable, that they should allow us to take our loan for bail.
See, the problem is we have a bail reform, a bail system in our courts already, where you can pay bail. So if I'm gonna bail out my sister over here, I can go up to the court clerk and do that, all right? This bail bonds places is legalized loan sharking, all right? All right, and if you look at the rates that they're charging, you'll see it really is. It's astronomical. It's higher than your credit cards, okay? And that's high, okay? But again, you know, we do have a mechanism in the court that needs to be reformed so that we can prevent this legalized loan sharking and people can have an affordable bail to pay and not have to be raped or robbed in trying to bail out the system. Next question.
All right, we're going to take just one more question, just for the sake of time, and then we're going to close out.
Hi.
Hi.
My question, I guess, is a little more personal in terms of how you navigate fear, and I think specifically the officers, because I think, you know, growing up, you have this whole perception of police, and I think it's specifically for people of color, and you get this culture shock when you start to hear these stories, and you start to see things like Jason Negron and Mike Brown and the list, you know? And then you start to, like, I'm pretty bland in terms of how I function in the world. I don't do anything illegal. But I still make sure my lights are always working, you know, because I don't want to risk even being pulled over for something I don't control. And there's this fear because there's never this huge story that they did something astronomical to be killed, you know? And then it's so scary. But then what this movie made me think about too is that you guys have fear too, even just in being honest, you know, or doing it the right way. There's repercussions for that, and I think there's a lack of communication. We're fearing people who are fearing, but then you have to go out in the, like, how do you navigate going to work without being bitter or resentful, or do you have that and still have to function? Like, how does that show up for you?
I just want to say one thing. First of all, the first part you said was how to deal with the cops. Kill them with kindness. If the cop stops you, put your lights on, take your keys out of ignition, say, "Officer, can I help you? Officer, what's the probable cause for stopping me?" Put your phone on record. You have mechanism and apps on your phone that you can press where no one will know you're recording. And record it. And just say, kill him with kindness. Officer, okay, you want to get out the car? No problem. But officer, what am I being stopped for? Can you please tell me what the probable cause is? And get them on recording. When you get those recordings, we can be able to help you then. And you can be able to help yourself. That's the first part of your question. Second part of your question is, unfortunately, I have a side of me that's numb. I've been in 3 wars, and I have seen many atrocities, and I've lost many people, and I've been in a lot of fights. So I don't fear anything in the streets. I only fear God and the wrath of my lady. Right? Right. But other than that, I don't fear it. I mean, I work with it every day.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You come to the Bronx, you're a target. I'm not gonna make it any simpler than that. You're a person of color, you come to the Bronx, you're gonna get a summons, you're gonna get stopped. How dare you drive a nice car? Why do you have $500 in your wallet? We are programmed to attack, target people of color. It is from the top all the way down. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're a target. So you want to get stopped? Come to the Bronx. No problem. This is what we do. I'm sorry I get emotional. You just said something that reminded me of my wife. How do I deal with it? I'm paranoid. I drive around I go off the highway, back on the highway, who's following me? We get death threats, our lives, our jobs are being threatened. People that file against the police department lawsuits are losing their jobs. And all they can make up whatever story they want. So I'm sorry if I'm not painting a nice picture, but reality is, yeah, I am scared. I'm tough. I was raised in the Bronx for about 30-something years, and you know, I gotta be on my toes all the time. I have to be perfect at work because they're gonna come after you, and I'm always watching my back. It's just reality. I deal with it. I have a good wife who supports me. I got good friends. Without these people, I don't know where I would be mentally, but because we can lean on each other, and too bad that Sandy's not here, because we just keep calling each other just to talk and vent, and other officers call us to vent. And again, I drive my wife crazy because I'm picking up calls from all these police officers who just want to vent. And without each other, I don't know where we would be, you know, and we can't get psychiatric help because the police won't use it against us. So like I said, I'm sorry I painted a very, you know, not so nice picture. It's reality. And listen, I was born in the Bronx and raised, and I'm still in fear, but I ain't gonna let them win. We're gonna go to the end with this.
Yeah. Well, what helped me deal with it is my faith in Christ and the support system that Pete said. We talk to each other on a daily basis. We talk about growing pains in regards to navigating to the job. It's more likely that a black or brown officer will get shot or killed off duty than our white counterparts. That's the nature of the game. And unfortunately, it's that fear of people of color. And also the lack of training of the police officers. Because a lot of police officers, we don't get trained. Put it like this. In the academy, they'll tell you, if you don't know how to fight before you got into the academy, you're definitely not going to learn how to fight after you leave it. So we got a lot of officers that never been in a fist fight ever in their life, never got punched in their face. Now they're given a gun, now they're dealing with a situation they don't know how to handle it. They're going to go to, the only way they can handle it is by going to their most powerful tools, which would be their firearm. So with us, we just have to be perfect in everything we do. Perfect in how we deal with you, perfect in how we deal with each other, perfect in everything. Because the fight that we're doing right now is not about us, it's about you. As long as we continue fighting the fight, you people will have somebody fighting for you. Once they take us out, then it's going to be business as usual. So that's why we need every single one of you support, day in, day out. Spread the message about this, the film. Write to your local councilmen or congressmen, senators, governors, so forth and so on. Be involved in the issues that's affecting your community, like electing or choosing a new police commissioner, electing or choosing a new district attorney.
And one other thing, and supporting your council members like that one who speaks out and is not afraid to speak out against what's going on. You need to do that. And I want to say thank you for spending this night with us. And thank you so much.
So yeah, please continue to applause. Thank you for the officers of violence, Officer David Serrano, Investigator Randy Gomez, Callie Howman. Thank you to Gary and the entire Bayesian Theater crew for opening up their doors for us this evening. And again, this tonight was brought to you by the Bridgeport Generation Now. I love Bridgeport and the ACLU Connecticut. If you want to again follow this documentary further, you can go to crimeandpunishmentdoc.com. You can continue to follow the case there. You will see some more links and highlights in our event and on our page as well on Facebook if you want to continue to follow this or stay connected. If you're going to hang out for a few minutes, please feel free to introduce yourself to these officers and members of the panel tonight and get their information so you can stay in touch. Thank you so much.
We'd like to take a picture with all of you, so you don't come up here and somebody grab a camera.